Hello and welcome back everyone to another session of Alice 3. Today's main focus is Do Together. Let's get started. Lesson objectives, developing skills in Alice 3. In order for you to be successful in today's session, you need to understand the importance of trial and error strategy. Recognize nesting instructions, use the Do Together control structure and create a scene in Alice. The literacy keywords associated with today's session are control structure, do in order, do together, nesting, trial and error. So control structure is a statement that controls the execution of a set of instructions. Do in order, which we did in our last session, is a control statement that tells Alice to execute instructions sequentially, which means one by one. The do together is a control statement that tells Alice to execute and run instructions simultaneously. And this is our main focus of today's session. Nesting, this refers to when one program statement is written inside another one. These two or more sections can work together or separately in many different combinations. And finally, trial and error, doing frequent adjustments in the program to get the best results. So quick recap from our previous session. Did you notice that in the previous lesson, the camel's movements seemed unnatural? Did you? What do you think? What piece was missing? Before I tell you what piece was missing, I want you to know that in our daily lives, while we do certain actions in order, there are several actions that happen at the same time. For example, consider how a bird flies. A bird flaps its wings up and down to fly higher. It would be rather funny if the bird first flapped the left wing and then the right wing. Both wings have to flap together for liftoff. So in Alice and in programming in general, we often perform actions together. The control structure that allows us to do this in Alice is called the Do Together block. All actions placed inside the Do Together block will be executed at the same time. And again, referring back to our keyword of today's session, the Do Together structure is a control statement that tells Alice to execute and run instructions simultaneously. So today we're going to learn how to use the Do Together block to improve the movement of our camels from the previous lesson. Task, Do Together. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a control statement that tells Alice to execute and run instructions simultaneously. So what we are going to do in today's session is use the camel family scene you have already created. This time, in addition to moving the camel in a square, we will make its legs move so that its movements look more realistic. So that's what was missing from our camel family animation. We will repeat these actions 4 times in order to accomplish this task. And the algorithm that we are going to use is do together, camel, move forward, camel's legs move. Before we get started with the demonstration, I'm going to explain what these screenshots show. So the first one, in the camel family scene, you're going to drag and drop the Do Together tile into the Do in Order box. So as you can see here, I'm dragging and dropping the Do Together into the Do in Order box. And then what I'm going to do next is drag and drop the first camel move method inside the Do Together box. So this camel move forward 10 steps will go inside there. I want you to know that this action means that the Do Together has become intertwined with Do in Order. What does that mean? Nesting. So nesting means that one program statement is written inside another one. These 2 or more sections can work together or separately in many different combinations. And nesting is an effective and useful technique in writing computer programs. Once you have done that, the next step would be to drag and drop another Do in Order tile into the Do Together box. And then when you've done that, we're going to, from the object menu, expand the camel object, select Get Front Right Shoulder options, and then start programming it. So let's get started then. To start off with, you need to open the camel family scene from the previous lesson. So to do this, you need to go to File, Open, Locate, and load the camel family scene. So your screen should be looking something like mine. So in the same camel family scene, drag and drop the Do Together tile into the Do in Order box. And the Do Together tile is at the bottom here. You drag and drop it into the Do in Order box. The next step will be to drag and drop the first camel move method inside the Do Together box. So we drag this and we drop it in. Now, as I said, this is called nesting because the actions have become intertwined. So nesting means that one program statement is written inside another one. The next step would be to drag and drop another do in order tile into the do together box. So you go back to the bottom here, do in order, drag and drop. Once you've done that, from the object menu, expand the camel object and select the get front right shoulder option. So remember, we're on camel 4 here, so we need to go to the object menu, select it, the arrow pointing to the right, and then get front left shoulder. We want the right shoulder. So once you've located it, select it, and then what you need to do is drag under orientation and drop it in to the do it in order box. And what we want to do here, we want to move it forward. So we go forward and we need to do custom decimal number. And the custom decimal number that we are going to put in here is 0.1. Once you've done that, select OK and you'll see that appear there. Next, you need to choose to add detail and select duration and then 0.5. So add detail, duration, 0.5. Okay, before we move on to the next part, how do we know that 0.1 is the correct amount of leg bending? So when we did select that and we've selected 0.5 duration, so why did we choose that? I want you to think about that. We didn't know until we try several amounts and see which gives the best bow movement of the leg. This is called the trial and error strategy. So when you are programming, I would advise you to try the different values and record your observations to get the best results. Okay, now what we need to do next is choose the direction backwards. So we're going to choose the same tile or the block of code. So what I'm going to do here is just copy it to clipboard and then drag and drop it down in the drop statement here box in the do in order box. And I'm just going to change that now, instead of forward, backwards. Once you've done that, you need to make a copy of the do in order block in order to create the 2 leg rotations. This time you will write the instructions for the left shoulder. Make sure to switch the directions in the second box. So let's right click, copy to clipboard, drag, and then drop. And as you can see, I'm just dropping it under the do in order. So now we have 2 do in order boxes, but we need to put this one in. So don't make that mistake. Put it into the do together box, but underneath the do in order. Once you've done that, you need to change the right shoulder to the left shoulder. So just select camel 4 again, and this time we need to choose the left shoulder. Same again for this camel 4, get front right shoulder needs to be changed to left shoulder. Once you've done that, we need to move this one backward and move the second instruction forward. So as you can see, they're both the opposite of one another. Let's have a quick look at the animation before we move on. So hit the run button. And if you look closely there, I'm just going to restart it. You can see the legs moving. The next step would be to repeat this process 3 more times. So copy the entire do together block and paste it in. That will be a shortcut, or you could do it manually to get a better understanding and feel for the program. If you do decide to copy the code, make sure you copy the do together box so it copies everything within that box. So right click, copy to clipboard, and then drag and drop it under this camel 4, turn left, and you'll see why. So once you've done that, again, we need to do it 4 times in total. So we've got 2, we've done it twice there. So again, this camel 4, turn left 0.25 and once more. Drag and then drop it under turn left. Before you run the animation, you will need to remove the forward blocks that are outside the do together box. So to do this, you just select the forward block of code and drag and drop it to the left, and it will remove it from your editor. So again, drag and drop, and if we scroll down, I've got another one here, drag and drop. And let's just check at the top. I don't have any more forward boxes, but outside the do together boxes, I've got the turn left commands. So we leave them because that will turn our camel to the left and make that square that we're looking for. So once you're happy with that, I want you to run the animation to see your camel in action. So if you look closely enough there, you can see the legs moving. What I would like you to do to see if you can add additional lines of code there to make it look a bit more realistic than mine. When you have completed the do together task, please submit the following evidence: the code that you have used and a screenshot of your animation with the camels on. So the main task of today's session and the main focus is creating a scene where a superhero can pull any object towards themselves with their right hand. I want you to add 5 objects of your choice to the scene and have the superhero point their hand at each object one by one. So as the superhero points his or her hand to an object, move the object towards the superhero's hand. Select a very large object as the last, perhaps a microwave or a car, so that when the superhero points at it, she is pulled towards the object while saying, "Wow." So in order for you to be successful in this session, you need to create a new scene, add objects, create the animation, run the animation, and upload the evidence. And before you do that, good practice, writing and testing animations can cause a heavy load on your computer, which you should know by now. So sometimes this can crash the system. So when this happens, you can lose all your unsaved work. So to avoid losing your work, make sure you save your animation every 10 to 15 minutes. And you should also keep a backup on a flash drive or online in case the file becomes corrupted. Here is an example of what I am looking for in today's session. If you look closely at the code, you will see that I've used the do in order blocks and the do together blocks. That's what I'm looking for in your code, using what you've learned so far. So let's run the animation and look at what it is doing. As you can see, when my superhero lifts her right hand up, the objects move towards her. That's what I'm looking for in your animation. Once you have done that, please take a screenshot of your animation and your code.